Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. You know, there are some cars that are so me, so right up my street, that I've never driven. And this is one of them. The BMW Z4. I think it's a really misunderstood car. It's a very undersold car. You don't see many of them around. So finally, I've got to spend some time in a Z4. But that one's quite special, because it's got a manual gearbox. Now, if you tune into the channel regularly, you will have probably guessed by now that I am a big fan of a two-seat convertible sports car. I just love the format, and I've owned quite a few over the years. I've had a couple of Audi TTs, I've had a Honda S2000. I guess my Mini Roadster's probably pushing that description a little bit, but I've owned that car for 10 years. I've had a Boxster and now I've got a Spider. I just love this type of car and the kind of motoring that it gives you. And there are just so many good cars to choose from, but it is a dying breed. I guess I'm going to call the kind of entry-level point of the market. You might look at things like a Mazda MX-5. Brilliant value for money, incredible cars. Not the most powerful cars in the world, but they deliver on a massive scale driving enjoyment. Or you could have a look at something like a Fiat or an Abarth 124 Spider. I absolutely love those. When you start getting up to the higher end of the performance scale, for me, I instantly think about Porsche Boxster and kind of overlook the BMW Z4. I always have. I've said I've never driven one up until this week. I had driven a Z3 many years ago. I actually considered buying a Z3 many years ago, but I just didn't get on with the interior, and especially the driving ergonomics were definitely not for me. But the Z4, I think it's just a really misunderstood car. You don't see many of them around. So if you want a car that's got a little bit of exclusivity that will get people looking because they're not that sure what it is or they haven't seen one for a while, this could well be a car for you. And I'm going to say they're actually reasonably priced. Well, maybe not this one. So this Z4 is top of the range. It's the Z4 M40i, and it's the LCI, so it's the midlife update version. Now they start at £56,000, or just a little bit over £56,000. But this car has something called the Handschalter Package, which is basically BMW speak for it's got a 6-speed manual and better brakes. The Handschalter Package is just over £5,000 as an extra. So as spec, this car is £64,500, near as damn it. Now, first up, £64,000 is a lot of money. However, if you start comparing this with some of its competitors, I've mentioned a Porsche Boxster already, and as a Boxster guy, then, you know, well, first up, at the moment anyway, you can't order a new Porsche Boxster, so we're going to have to kind of do a little bit of new and used. But my Boxster GTS, 4 years ago was £62,000, and if you want to get the 4-litre GTS with the 6-pot in it, they're probably going to set you back maybe £75,000 to £80,000. It's that kind of ballpark. But you get an awful lot for your money, and you do get a very classy package. And as I've said already, it's a package that there aren't that many around, so you're kind of buying into a little bit of exclusivity. I do like the styling. The front end is probably the most subtle set of kidney grills you're going to find on a modern day BMW. But it's just, I think it's aged really well as a car. But what's under here? Well, this is where it starts to get really interesting, because under here you have the simply magnificent 3-litre straight 6. It's a wonderful, wonderful engine. It's producing 340 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. So performance is not a worry. It'll do 0 to 62 in 4.6 seconds. But with this Handschalter package, all of that gets fed through a 6-speed manual gearbox and rear-wheel drive, and it just provides fantastic driver engagement. And also, it's a pretty sexy looking engine bay. I wonder if you can get nicer looking versions of that though. They look a bit low rent, but this bit's nice. Moving down the side of the car, there's a few things here that I really like. I love these kind of almost like shark gills in the front wing. Really nice detail, especially with the black contrasting with the body colour. The wheels, it's a staggered setup. It's a 19-inch wheel on the front axle, 20-inch wheel on the rear axle. But one of the things from that angle you'll spot is you're sat almost right on the rear axle, and it's got a really big, long bonnet. You really do feel it when you're driving the car, especially at T-junctions and so on. It's a big old long car, but I do quite like that feel. And then you come around the back and it's just really elegant. With the roof down, you've got the folding roof comes down into a nice tonneau. It makes that look really clean. And you can raise the roof at speeds of up to around about 30 kilometers an hour, I think, so bonus. But it looks lovely roof up or roof down. But the final party piece this car has is practicality, would you believe? Now the Z4 does have, in my opinion anyway, a very sexy looking bum. It's got a nice diffuser, twin exit exhausts. It's curvy, I like the lights. It just has a really nice presence from the rear. I also love the number plate, but I'm guessing BMW UK have had this since it was on a Z3 and maybe couldn't get GB Z4. But practicality is everything for these cars. I love my Boxster because it's got so much stowage. It's got a big boot up front and a big boot at the back. You can take loads of stuff away with you. And I have looked at and discounted some cars in the past. So I'm a big fan of the Jaguar F-Type. And I've always loved to have an F-Type SVR convertible. However, the boot in those is so tiny and ridiculous. For me, it rules the car out completely. Whereas in the Z4, this boot is a really, really good size. And I think that is another big tick in the box. It makes this car so usable and so practical. And you don't lose any of that boot space when you put the roof down. Sometimes in convertibles, especially saloon convertibles, you'll have to kind of fold down a separate bit that loses half the boot to make way for the hood to go down. Not in the Z4. Very, very useful. Now, if you compare this interior with a modern BMW, one of the newer models, like the new M2, for example, it probably looks a bit dated now, but I think that's perfect. This, for me, peak BMW. It's got a smallish screen there that you can use to mirror your smartphone. It's got a really nice instrument binnacle, that nice BMW layout. I think that works really well. And then everything else is buttons. You've got all of your kind of HVAC controls there on buttons. In the main central console, I've got an iDrive controller, so I don't have to use touchscreen with that. I can use this jog wheel if I want to. I've got my drive mode on buttons just there. I've got the little button to raise and lower the roof just there. And then I have this wonderful 6-speed manual gear changer. We'll talk more about that once we're out driving, but it is a super gearbox. And then the steering wheel, it's great, it's simple, yeah. I mean, honestly, you look at this interior and you think, I don't know why BMW evolved their interior. They should have just kept it like this. It would be perfect. Now, in terms of storage of things like bottles, the door bins aren't a great size, to be honest. I mean, they're actually probably a bit small for even a sunglasses case. So the door bins aren't great. I do have in here, I've got a small amount of storage in there and 2 drinks holders in there. And you can basically close half of it down for your elbow. Don't know where the passenger puts their elbow. So that, it's an all right solution. It's not perfect. And then you've got a small storage net behind the two occupants, and there's a ski hatch there as well. It's a really nice interior. Now, size-wise, I have got this seat all the way back. I've got an issue with the pedals. I'm going to talk more about that when we're out driving. The pedals are offset to the right, and my left leg is a little bit cramped on the footrest just to the left of the clutch. But the rest of the driving position for a tall person like me actually is really spot on. I can get the steering wheel just where I like it. I've got really good visibility. And all in all, the cabin feels very, very premium. And I love these seats. They look spectacular and they're really comfortable. So the next thing we're going to do is driving. I actually did the next bit of the review 2 days ago. Yeah, so it's been messing with my head, the fact that I've already filmed the driving part. Normally I like to do things in chronological order, but hey-ho, that wasn't possible this week. I'm going to start the driving part of this review with the roof up on a dual carriageway. Because having driven this car for a little while now, the thing that does surprise me is just how comfortable and luxurious it feels. The ride quality in comfort mode is really plush, and this lovely roof has so much sound insulation, and there's not a great deal of wind noise and stuff. So it's a really nice place to sit and do a long journey. The driving position is pretty comfortable. One of the things I am going to come on to is the positioning of the pedals is just a little bit off for me, because the pedals aren't directly in front of you. They're kind of offset to the right. So if I'm sat with my legs in a kind of natural position, my left foot actually falls on the clutch rest, not the clutch. I have to kind of move it over to where my left foot would think the brake was for the clutch to be. My right foot, where the brake is where my right foot thinks the accelerator needs to be, and then the accelerator's even further over to the right, if that makes sense. But yes, if you're wanting to kind of cruise and do lots of miles, this car does it with aplomb. It's a really nice place to be. The visibility is excellent. The driving position's good. And just the general road noise, wind noise, and comfort levels with this roof up are excellent. However, you don't buy a car like this with a manual gearbox and no roof to pootle along on the motorway with this cruise control set to 70 miles an hour. Oh no. No, you buy a car like this to find some really nice back roads, drop the roof. The weather's just about good enough for that. It's not raining, and if it's not raining, the roof is normally down. So let's go and find some nice roads, drop the roof, try out this manual gearbox. Excellent. The end of the dual carriageway section of this journey. And that means I'm going to take the roof down. And also, there's kind of blue sky over there. Kind of looks all right. Here we go. And the roof is down. Let you into a secret, actually. It's the first time I've driven this car with the roof down, because this morning it was cold and misty and not very nice at all. But I think we need to go and find some slightly less busy roads where I can step up the driving modes from comfort into sport and see what this Handschalter is all about. Yeah, and that's just in comfort mode. It does sound really good, this car. For a a totally stock car, let's just push the sport button. The nice thing, the sport button, in the head-up display I now get basically shift-up lights. And all I will say is 335 ponies pushes this car along the road very nicely indeed. Thank you very much. Let's just chat about this manual box while we wait for the traffic to, I don't know, open up a little bit. It's a really nice, notchy, short throw gearbox. I think the last manual BMW I drove was the M2, and that was maybe 18 months ago now. Such a lovely, engaging car, that. More power than this for sure, but it's such a shame that BMW don't do more manual gearboxes, because they're very, very good at it. Clutch weight's really nice. There's a lovely blip, auto blip on the downshift. I haven't had a look in the menu screens as to whether you can turn that off and do it yourself, but to be honest, it's so good, I'm just letting the car do it, because it's a really nice change. It just happens at the right time. The gearbox is really notchy. As the gear goes into the gate, there's this kind of, it's not a click, but it's a very firm sort of, you can feel that engagement, and it's really nice because it lets you know that you're in the right gear. There's that little rev on the downshift. And then as you go up through the box, it just takes a little bit of time just to get used to the clutch and just to get used to the way that the gears come in, just to make that up change nice and smooth. But when you get it right, and it's easier when you're pushing on, when you get it right, it's a really very rewarding gearbox, this. It's great. It just feels so solid and so well put together. The noise, for me, a little bit disappointing. It's no great surprise in the world we live in with all of these restrictions that get put on engines, that this engine's being strangled. The amazing sonorous noise that could come out of it just isn't there. This, for me, is definitely a car where you need to go and get some kind of aftermarket exhaust system put on it, just to untap that noise a little bit. Ride quality, not bad. It's a little bit firm and bouncy, but to be fair, on the main sort of cruising bits of driving I've done since I've had it on dual carriageways, it's very relaxing and very comfortable. When you get it on a B road like this, it's just a little bit more jittery and on its toes. That's not a bad thing, because it makes you feel like the car's really there for you and ready to perform when you want it to. See, there you go. That's a really nice upshift. When you get up to pace with the roof down, there's not a great deal of cabin bluster, which is really good. There's a big screen at the back there, and I'll always drive with the windows up when I'm trying to do any filming. On a warmer sunny day, you might want to drop these down and get more wind in your hair. But believe me, if you're trying to film and get decent quality audio, windows are up every single time. Now, I've been playing with the drive mode settings, and I've gone into an individual setting. I've set everything into Sport Plus except the steering, which I've left in comfort, and the suspension, which I've left in comfort. And I think that's going to make a big difference to how this car feels. Let's find out, shall we? On throttle, a lot of traction on throttle, which is great. and a really nice, confidence-inspiring feeling in the corners, even on throttle. And it's got a lot of go, this car. See, that's it. I've got it now. It's all about the settings. You've got multiple cars in one. Drive around in the eco or normal setting. It's very relaxed. It's very refined. But if you want that sportier edge, you can go in and configure the car how you want it, and it makes a big difference. You can also, I found out, you can turn the engine blip off. It's a setting in the main infotainment system. If you go into the individual settings, you can turn the blip off if you wanted to do it yourself. But as I've said already, it's very good. I just let the car do it for you. Now the big question is, this or a Boxster? Because I love my soft top motoring. I've had a soft top, as I'm sure many of you know, for the last 20 years. But my Boxster, rear wheel drive, mid-engine rather than front engined, automatic rather than manual, but same kind of ballpark in terms of money. And this Handschalter, yes, I still think it's remarkable value. But it's that kind of, early 60s, which is what I paid for my Boxster as a used car. Can't really compare it to my Spider because they're a little bit more cash. You're talking 85, 90 grand. You might get one a little bit cheaper than that on the used market. They're 420 horsepower, but you can get them in a manual. So, I don't know. It's maybe more the Porsche guy in me. I think a Boxster format's just a little bit sharper, a little bit better balanced through the corners because you've got that mid-engine format. But this front engine rear wheel drive, it's a lovely car to drive. The bonnet is quite long. You notice it most of the time when you come up to a T-junction because you're sat quite a long way back. I'm nearly on the rear axle here, and you kind of have to sneak out to see what's coming. But I've got to say, it's a wonderful car. And the thing that I just don't understand, having spent some time in this car now, is why you don't see more of them about. It's not a car that you see many of. I don't know whether BMW would class it as a sales success or a sales disappointment. I am surprised that you don't see more of them because it's a really lovely car to spend time in. It's beautifully appointed. And this is the top spec one, and I think actually in the crazy world we live in of car pricing, I think it's brilliant value for money for what you get. It's a lovely, lovely thing. Great engine, great gearbox, brilliant interior, nice looks. The press car that BMW UK had before this was a lovely dark green with tan interior, and that was very sexy. This red, it's not for me. I really don't like red cars, I'm afraid. It's lovely, but I wouldn't have it in this colour. It's not a colour for me, but give me a green over tan. Yes, please. Anyway, what do you think of the BMW Z4 M40i Handschalter? I really like it. See now, Joe said to me a while ago, he said, Ped, you've got to get your hands on the Handschalter. It is a wonderful car. In the days where everyone's going automatic, I've gone automatic in my latest car, it's lovely to swap cogs for yourself. The gearbox is very, very good, and it just is a very competent car. Let me know what you think. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.